Remember this, 3 years ago, a Scottish YouTube personality, and I'm going to say comedian, even though I don't think he would describe him that way, a raconteur with a sense of humor, let's say that. Well, here, let me show you the video to explain itself. Take a look.
My girlfriend is always ranting and raving about how cute and adorable her wee dog is. And so I thought I would turn them into the least cute thing that I could think of, which is a Nazi. Buddha, do you want to gas the juice? Do you want to gas the juice? Mum will gas the juice, son. You want to gas the juice? Do you want to gas the juice? Come on, gas the juice. Come on, gas the juice, son. Come on.
Do you want to gas the juice? Do you want to gas the juice? Do you want to gas the juice?
Gas the Jews.
Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil!
You know what? Listen, humor, I think, is often in the eye of the beholder. And I got to say, I'm a Jew, and I think that's funny. Now, you don't have to admit that's funny, but you have to admit that that was a joke attempting to be funny. I got to tell you something. Dogs cannot be Nazis. Dogs cannot be members of any political parties. Dogs are not political creatures. Dogs don't have a conscience. They don't understand things. It was a joke, the cutest little dog. But, of course, Mark Meekin, otherwise known as Count Dankula, was prosecuted for the crime of making that joke video, and was actually convicted and fined. Well, that was 3 years ago, and the conviction, it was a 2-year affair. He has been censored, deplatformed, and demonized for that joke, even though some comedians came to his aid, including Ricky Gervais, one of the most popular British comedians. But now the BBC, which is known as a humorless place, has actually done a documentary, and I don't know, I think maybe they've actually given a fair hearing to Count Dankula, who joins us now from Scotland via Skype. Great to see you again, Mark. I'm going to call you Count Dankula, but your name is Mark Meekin. I think they're both great names. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks very much, man. It's good to be back.
Well, you've certainly been through the ringer. I was just looking at some notes before we called you up today. It was a 2-year prosecution, wasn't it? Over a joke video about it took 2 years. How many court dates were there over this joke video?
I think there were 9 in total, so that's 9 lots of payments straight from the taxpayer.
9 court dates. You know what? I guess that's a little bit less than old Tommy Robinson faced, but at least you're not in Belmarsh prison over that video. Tell me a little bit, I want to get to this documentary that the BBC did, but refresh our viewers' memories about some of the non-legal consequences. You were prosecuted, convicted, fined £800, but that was really the least of it. Tell me some of the other things that were done to you by people who said, no, that's not a joke. He really did turn his dog into a Nazi. Tell us some of the things that happened to you and your family.
Well, people were doing things like anytime I tried to get a job, people would harass my employers into firing me. Anytime we've tried to do any live events, people would find out where the events were and, petition the venue or sometimes threaten the venue in order for them to cancel on us. We've had people, try and attack us in the street. We've had people trying to get our channels and social media shut down, just all manner of things to basically, it's an old technique called breaking your rice bowl, take away a person's ability to feed and house themselves. And it's a case of, I think these people have just deemed that I am not allowed to make money or provide for myself because I hurt their feelings. I don't really feel that the punishment exactly fits the crime here, but these are just some of the things that these people have tried to do because I told an offensive joke.
Yeah. Jokes come from touching things that can be controversial, sometimes letting the air out of a balloon a little bit. Before she went woke, Sarah Silverman told the most astonishing jokes, including about the Holocaust, and to have those jokes come from a sweet little Jewish girl, I think was the same juxtaposition as what you were doing with that cute little dog. I mean, the ugliest thing in the world is Nazism, and I think that, I mean, you know what they say, dissecting a joke is like dissecting a frog. It's not that interesting, and when you're done, the frog is dead. So to try and dissect and explain the joke sort of wrecks it, but the humor is the juxtaposition, this cute little dog doing a terrible thing. If you didn't acknowledge that the Holocaust and Nazis were terrible, the whole joke falls apart. Like you have to willfully be blind to the attempt at humor there to claim that wasn't a joke, that was actually a Nazi dog recruitment video or something.
Yeah, the argument that people were trying to make is that my video could actually turn people into Nazis. I would love to meet anyone, I don't think it's ever happened, but on the rare chance it has, anyone who watched my video and decided to alter their entire political belief system because they felt that a dog had a point. I'm pretty sure it hasn't happened, but you never know.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. And of course, what idiots on the street or idiots on the internet do is one thing, but to me the grossest part was that the prosecution proceeded with this. You said it was 9 court dates, because I guess all the rest of crime in Scotland is taken care of. It's a crime-free paradise, and you were the last worst problem that had to be addressed by the resources of the state. That's an embarrassment to Scotland.
Oh no, skyrocketing violent crime and all other types of crime and drugs and dealers and all this type of things. But apparently I must have just caught the police on an off day. They must have been bored.
All right, well listen, I know that you were recruited for a reality show. They love those over there in the UK. But some newspaper, I forget which one, said Nazis will be on show. And they actually, was it a BBC show that the tabloids scared the BBC into sacking you? Is that right?
Essentially, but they discovered that I had a slot on a panel show, and it was just basically a show where people of different stripes and different backgrounds all come together. They make sure to have as much political diversity on the show as possible, and that was the entire point, to get every different people's perspectives on it. And the whole show was very constructive. It wasn't just, right-wing bias or left-wing bias. There was everything. It was a huge mishmash of just political diversity, and the show could have been extremely productive. But what happened was, when it was discovered that I was going to be on the show, the Daily Mail, who a lot of people consider to be a far-right newspaper, probably wouldn't describe them as far-right, but they were the ones that got really upset about it, and they called me a Nazi. But the thing that I found extremely funny is the person who created and founded the Daily Mail was literally friends with Hitler.
Huh.
And there's even pictures of them together. And just because of the huge dramatic sense of irony over the article, it's essentially the equivalent of Gandhi calling Hitler a bit of an evil bastard. It's just the irony of it. And I found it so funny that I've actually got the article framed and hanging on my wall.
BBC TV job to Nazi hate criminal. Unbelievable. Front page. Because, of course, just like you were the #1 criminal in Scotland, there was no big... What's the date on that there?
That was on March the 3rd this year.
You know what? I'll have to look at what happened in the world that day. I don't care if there was a hurricane, a terrorist attack, a government that fell, an election crisis. The biggest news in the world that day was that you were invited to be on a lighthearted panel discussion on the BBC. Well, the Daily Mail saved the day. They saved the day. And how many dogs did they save from a life of hate crimes? All right. Well, to their credit, and I'm going to say that, the BBC actually came back to you for some sort of a documentary, and they had an alleged comedian. And listen, if I can call you someone who tried to make a joke, I can say that Steve McLean tried to make a joke. You don't have to admit someone's funny to admit they're a comedian. And I guess unlike the others, he had the courage to meet you face to face and spit out his accusations to your face rather than anonymously. I'll give him that credit, would you?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, everyone else ran for the hills. Nobody wanted to speak to me, but he was the only one who really did. So I need to give him credit for having the stones to do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got a couple of clips from that BBC show, and I'd like to play them and get your thoughts. I mean, obviously you're in both of these clips, but let's take a look to show our viewers, and then we'll chat for a second after each one. So here's the first clip where Steve McLean, who is apparently the, well, here, let's just take a look at the clip where Steve McLean says, "It wasn't funny." Take a look.
Because, yeah, I mean, you're claiming to be a comedian.
Uh-huh.
I don't think you're a comedian.
That's fine, that's up to you. You don't get to decide that, so that's fine.
Well, no, this is it, though.
Uh-huh.
So far, you've said, you know what's funny? Hitler.
Well, we come
you know what's funny? The death of 6 million people.
Not directly.
No,
it's
not directly.
No, it's not. Like, see, basically, do you think that making jokes about bad things is the same as being happy those things happened?
I think you're lying through your teeth.
You know, to find the joke funny, you have to acknowledge that the Nazis were bad and the Holocaust was bad. The whole point is the pug, a cute, adorable animal, reacting so happily to something horrible is the joke. I mean, I thought you knew comedy. We like this type of edgy humour and all this type of stuff.
It's not edgy, it's...
Well, you can perceive it as that. We find it funny.
The government got you on gross offensiveness, okay? The courts of the land.
And the government's always right.
No, I'm not saying that. But when
okay.
you say people try and get me on, what I'm getting you on here is you're a convicted criminal.
I love this. This is like my Twitter mentions, but in real life.
You know what? The idea that, this reminds me of the human rights commissions in our own country, Mark, who've come after me, come after some of my friends like Mark Stein, who's got a unique sense of humor. For the government to be the arbiter of a joke. I mean, I remember joking back when we were being prosecuted, maybe we need to appoint a government joke finder general. Maybe that fellow, Steve McLean, can be the joke finder general. And maybe you call a 1-800 number, is this a joke? You run it by him. And he says, yeah, that's funny, or that's not funny, or that's not funny, but I can tell it was, like could you imagine him? And what bugged me the most there, Mark, is that the determination of whether or not something was a joke was that you were convicted by the government. So obviously it wasn't a joke. Obviously it's not funny because the government said so. Imagine thinking that the government is the yes/no determiner of comedy.
Oh, a lot of these people from the left they just love the government, don't they? It's really strange. It's really strange. I'm not sure what's happened to them in the last 10 years. I always thought they hated the government, but things seem to have changed now. The government is always right. The government can do no wrong in our eyes. I mean, that's worrying, is it not?
I mean,
what the heck happened?
I don't know this Steve McLean well. I probably should have researched him a little more before the show. But in Canada, we have government comedians on the state broadcaster. I guess you have the same in the BBC. Comedians who work for the government. And I think that's about as natural as being like a punk rock band that works for the government. If you are a punk rock band, by definition, you cannot work for the government. If you work for the government and you're a punk rock band, you're not a punk rock band. You're like a corporate jingle machine working for money from the BBC. You cannot do that. The idea that the government says yes or no to comedy is so upside down. I found that pitiful, but I think they gave you, in that little exchange there, I think you got the better of it. I'm glad the BBC actually gave you, I'm going to say, equal moral weight and equal time, it seems like.
He didn't have any arguments. That was the problem. He was arguing and from the exact same position that the courts were, where it was a case of, we don't have any evidence whatsoever of what your politics are, but I've already made my mind up what thoughts are in your head. Yeah. And they always seem to do it in a way that benefits their argument. He was just basically saying, you're a Nazi because I said so.
Yeah.
That is literally all he was doing. And that was the only argument he had. He didn't have facts, evidence, anything. He was arguing purely from emotion and his own biased opinion, which he had no facts to back up, which is why he performed so badly.
Yeah. All right, well, we got one more clip I'd like to show. Here's another outtake from this BBC little video show about you. Take a look.
People like me want freedom of speech. You don't.
Unfortunately, people like you want consequence freedom of speech.
No.
If someone watches your video and that causes them to go out and commit a violent offence,
Okay.
are you responsible for that?
No, because people have agency. Same as you saying that you think I'm lying and I secretly have Nazi views. What if somebody watches this documentary, sees you saying that, believes you, and I get the shit kicked out of me in the street? Is that your fault?
No, I think it's your fault for making a video with a pug. You know how many... I
so
know,
in other words, I deserve it.
No, I'm not saying... No, I'm not...
Oh, another perfect issue. I think you got him. What he was talking about there, in law, would be called prior restraint. You haven't done anything wrong yet, but it could maybe possibly happen that someone would see this joke video about the pug and could maybe possibly kill a Jew. So we have to stop you now in advance for the pre-crime. We have to put a restraint on you in advance because I'm nervous. And I mean, I can't even believe a media personality comedian like him would not see what he's calling for there. But I thought you turned it around brilliantly. You can't make a joke about a dog because what are the consequences? But he wants the consequence-free free speech of saying you're a Nazi. And isn't he threatening you the same way? I don't think he was well armed in this battle of the wits.
No, he didn't have any arguments. He didn't realize how much he was contradicting himself. I mean, it's a case of if someone produces, if there's no direct call to violence or anything like that, or any actual instruction, you have no control over how someone interprets the content that you produce, and if they want to translate that into action, then that's on them. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the author of Catcher in the Rye didn't think his book was going to inspire the murder of John Lennon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that wasn't his intention in any way, but unfortunately some lunatic, took it that way and went and did that. And it's a case of the only way to actually that happening at all, because there's always going to be maniacs in the world that are going to do stupid and sick stuff like that. The only way to stop that is to just not say anything. Don't produce videos, don't produce content, because it might inspire some lunatic, schizophrenic maniac to go and commit a horrible act.
Yeah, well, it's been 3 years since that pug video. You would think if the mass riots and pogroms were going to happen, that we might have seen evidence of them now. It's been 3 years. Well, listen, I do give the BBC some credit. I find them odious, as I find our own state broadcaster here odious. Yeah, I've had my own experience with BBC reporters, including one of them who literally reported me to the police, Mark. I don't know if you know this. When I was covering Tommy Robinson's trial, Dominic Casciani, BBC political reporter, literally reported me to the police, complained about me to the police.
Why?
For contempt of court, because, Eddie, I won't get into the details. I've done shows on it and tweeted about it. I mean, listen, if he disagrees with me, that's fine. I mean, he should ignore me. I'm a nobody from Canada. For him to call the Metropolitan Police and complain about me, he's a journalist. But again, being a government journalist is like being a government comedian. That adjective destroys the central qualities of journalism. That's the BBC, but my point about mentioning that odious man is to say, I give them a drop of credit for at least giving you some airtime. And I thought you cleaned the clock of that Steve McLean. Has there been what's been the reaction to this special? Has it been popular? Have there been complaints to your government hurt feelings regulator called Ofcom? What's been the reaction?
There hasn't. It's been mostly positive. A lot of people are sort of starting to wake up, because I think one of the main things that the media are most concerned with is they've painted this image of me as, the great big bad Nazi guy. And the one thing that I get said to me all the time when people start to consume my content or actually meet me in person is, oh wow, you aren't anything like the way I thought you were. And that's when I go, yeah, stop reading the paper. because people realise that I'm not actually like that. So and the media like to rage bait. You know, they like to get those clicks in by making rage articles, and I'm a source of that. So I'm a valuable source of income for them. So it's in their best interest for the general population to not see what I am actually like, and that I'm not the way I'm made out to be, because they stand to lose out in the long run, especially because they'll be exposed as liars. Even though the media are getting caught lying about one more thing's a drop in the bucket, you know, at this point. But still, it's a victory. It's a victory they don't want me to have.
Yeah, you know, I think that you are, I'm not sure if placebo is the right word. It is my view, Mark, that there actually is a lot of Nazi-like hatred in the United Kingdom, but it doesn't come from indigenous Scots or Brits or Englishmen. It comes, and I'm sorry to say this, from the hundreds of thousands or even millions of people who moved to the United Kingdom with anti-Semitism in their bones from countries where Jews were eradicated. I'm talking about Muslim countries, including in the Middle East. I believe there is a great deal of anti-Semitism in the UK, but Mark, it's easier to prosecute you, a humorous, slightly quirky, maybe more than slightly quirky, YouTube comedian from Scotland, because you're not going to blow anybody up. You're not going to have a march of 1,000 angry people outside your mosque. You're going to go peacefully and quietly, and you're such a colorful character, like you say, you'll fill up all the tabloids. You are a placebo, you are a decoy for the government to say, look how tough we are on Nazis. We had a multi-year prosecution of a YouTube comedian. We show we care about anti-Semitism, while 23,000 jihadis, according to MI5 or 6, one of the MIs, walk the streets of London. I think that you serve not only a distraction purpose for the media, but for the police and the prosecutors too, so they can justify or distract from the fact that they actually do have a hatred problem in the UK that they're too terrified to tackle, Mark.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think's more likely to cause anti-Semitic attacks? A dog lifting its paw, or a doctrine that actively teaches you to do it?
Yeah. I want to ask you about one last thing, and thanks for giving me so much time here, but I'm sure you saw the viral video of a woman in Waltham Forest shrieking at a gay pride march. Do you know what I'm talking about, that viral vid the other day?
Was this the woman in the burqa?
That's right.
Next to some buses? Yeah, I did see that, yeah.
So she was saying, shame on you, you shameless people, shame on you, you despicable people. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. That's everything she said. She repeated some of that. She was not violent. She did not threaten anyone. She did not physically impede anyone or touch anyone. For those who were progressive on issues of sexuality, they would find those comments offensive and disrespectful. But actually, other than the shocking Handmaid's Tale look and feel of a woman in a burqa shouting at gay men on the streets of London, in my view, I don't actually see the crime there. To my surprise, she was arrested. I don't even know how they would pick her out of a lineup. Everyone looks
I didn't know she got arrested.
Yeah, same day. The Waltham Forest police announced they had a 38-year-old woman in custody almost immediately. I have no clue how that happened, but I'm going to make a prediction, and this will be proven or not very quickly, that she will not face a prosecution. First of all, I don't think she should be prosecuted, because I don't think she committed a crime. Shouting shame on you should be allowed at any political protest, really. And I think a pride parade is a form of a political statement. I think you should be able to say shame on you, and someone should be able to say shame on you to a woman in a burqa, even if it's offensive. I don't think they're going to prosecute this woman for the reason I just said, because unlike you, she's part of a politically protected class. And Steve McLean, the courageous Steve McLean, who said, Mark, we're 1 inch away from a Holocaust in the UK because of your pug video. If he was face to face or face to burqa with this woman, he wouldn't have the courage to muster his arguments about what the Quran and her shouting at the gay pride march could do consequence-free. I think for him, this was a placebo. He could play act his concern for minorities with you because you're a straight white male indigenous Scot. And if he was face to burqa with this 38-year-old shrieking woman, he would turn into a puddle and say, oh, you're so right, we need to be more tolerant to you, or something. What do you think of that?
He wouldn't have challenged her. And I'm actually quite shocked they arrested her. I did not expect that. I agree with you, though, that she should not have been arrested. That is her right to say that. But I do also agree that she probably won't face prosecution. Even though, you know, homophobic insults and stuff like that, that is a hate crime here in Britain. You know, like it or not, you know, that is a hate crime, and that should result in prosecution, especially since she was in the street pointing a finger in their face and saying it. But I'll be surprised to see what people say about this, because this is the thing, is like, when it comes to Sharia, like, homophobia is illegal, apparently punishable by death. And so that's something that is going to need to be confronted sooner or later. But I mean, if you confront Islam, though, you know, you're a horrible Nazi, bigot, fascist.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how the far lefties react to this one.
Well, if you listen to that Waltham Forest Pride video, the last thing, or one of the things you hear, I think it's the last thing in the clip, is a gay pride marcher saying, that's what the fascists and racists say about you. So someone in the gay pride parade was so shocked because he had convinced himself that fundamentalist Muslims and gay activists are somehow allies against the man. And I think there was this moment of shock where he said, hang on, sister, you're using the language against us that's used against you. He maybe had a moment of clarity that the true threat to homosexual activism and freedom in the UK is not from the Church of England, but maybe from a different religion. Listen, Mark, this is very interesting. I enjoy having you on the show. I can't get enough of your accent. And I've started to watch one of your series, Mad Lads. And for some reason, I started with The Naked Rambler. And I learned a lot more than I wanted to. But I do recommend your channel to our viewers to get a feeling for your style, your sense of humor. I call you a raconteur. I think that's what you are. And for anyone who doubts my assessment of you and my own judgment, unlike Steve McLean, that you are a comedian, I would encourage them to go to your website. Count Dankula is your more popular name. They're very funny videos. And for folks who love the Scottish accent as much as I do, you're just going to start binge watching, I guarantee you that. Mark, it's great to see you. Thanks for taking all the time with us. And I hope you are able to stay free in the United Kingdom. But I've learned so much about that place in the last 2 years through Tommy Robinson that I predict you may face the law again for your unofficial illegal jokes.
I've got a feeling it probably will happen one day, but don't worry, I'll be better prepared for it next time.
Well, I'm sure you will be, and I'm sure you'll come out on top, morally at least, if not legally. Great to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, man.
All right, there you have it. Mark Meekin, also known as Count Dankula. A lot to cover there. We touched on many subjects, but I think, as always, people say, Ezra, why you focus on the UK so much? Well, it's an interesting story in itself, don't you think? But what happens in the UK today happens in Canada in 5 years, and the United States in 10 years. It's our own time machine to see our Orwellian future. That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. Every day I do a video monologue and then I interview an interesting guest, and then I end by reading my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at therebel.media/shows.